congratulations on Lingua Franca. Again, I've been following it closely, making its way in festival rounds, including the Palm Springs International Film Festival. And it's been making waves along the way, right?
Yes, it's been truly a surreal and exhilarating journey for the film. And I'm very, very lucky that, you know, Ava DuVernay and her amazing distribution company, Array, has acquired the film for North America. And just to be partnering with someone who authentically champions and amplifies voices of minority filmmakers like myself, it's, a thrill to be.
Besides the pandemic, though, how has life changed for you since I met you at the Palm Springs International Film Festival?
Actually, left New York City in early June, and I'm in the South, and I've been kind of using the space and the peace and quiet to just be creative and productive. And I've completed the feature script for my next film, which I'm very excited about.
That is great. And now, of course, Lingua Franca is set to debut globally on Netflix, right? And under the creative arms of, like you said, no other than the fantastic Ava DuVernay's Array releasing. I mean, how exciting is that?
Yes, it's actually going to be in Netflix North America because it has different distributors globally. Like, it came out in France in theaters about a month ago. But it's, very exciting to have a film about, an undocumented Filipino trans woman be seen by, a lot more people on such an elevated streaming platform like Netflix.
Now, so remind our viewers again about Lingua Franca's genesis again. I mean, how did you get interested in writing and directing the film?
So Lingua Franca is my third feature film, but it is my first to be set in and produced in the US, and it's my first to be my first film after my gender transition. And I have always been drawn to stories about women who are marginalized and dispossessed, who are forced to make personal choices in fraught socio-political settings. And so I was writing it around the time that I just finished transitioning and when Trump got elected to the White House. So the premise of Lingua Franca just came to me from that experience. It's not autobiographical. It's a fictional story, but it does, channel and capture my emotional state at the time that I was developing it.
That's right. Now, when you were writing it, did you envision yourself in the role of Olivia?
I think because I see myself as an auteur, a writer, director, and I also wear multiple hats in the film. Like, I wrote, directed, edited, produced, and I ultimately, played Olivia. I think that, most of the time in a writer-director's work, the main character tends to be like an alter ego or a double. Anyway, and Olivia was someone that I've, that's inhabited my mind for, over a year, almost 2 years. So I know her intimately, and it made sense to me to play her. I mean, also both of us are Filipino trans women immigrants in New York. So the decision to play her, I think, came organically to me.
That is great. Actually, you know what, to be honest with you, I love the film the second time around. And as I mentioned before, silence speaks louder in this film. It's a quiet and thoughtful reflection on love and identity, I think.
Thank you. But I understand that, Lingua Franca might not be the easiest and the most obvious crowd pleaser because, despite the heavy subject matters that it deals with, that are very politically resonant at this time. It touches on immigration and the transgender experience in the US. The emotions that it deals with are not easy or obvious or big. I think the film is more subtle, complex, patient, and it's a film that invites you to really, it's a film that you sit with.
Right.
And,
right.
You let simmer and marinate. And I think that's what we need at this time. We need to think more deeply and more critically about the issues that affect our lives, our community, and the society that we live in.
And because of that, I think it stays with you, which is a fantastic, fantastic achievement. And also, by the way, I am so happy. I mean, this year, a little bit of happiness this year. The filmmakers are making fantastic movies. Like for instance, you with Lingua Franca and Diane Paragas with Yellow
Okay.
Rose and
Yeah.
Ramona S. Diaz with the fantastic documentary A Thousand Cuts. I could not be happier.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been kind of a watershed year for Filipinx and Filipino-American filmmakers, and we've only just begun. We're just getting started. There's more to come, right, man?
I love that. Now, how
Yeah.
does your knowledge about the power of cinema influence your work?
Um, I think, and maybe we've talked about this once before, and that as a filmmaker, an artist, we don't really get to choose what we're passionate about. Our passions choose us, and I guess I was lucky in that I listened to that call and that calling, and I pursued filmmaking as a vocation. And I'm also very grateful for the opportunity to speak of issues and themes that are dear to me and that I feel passionate about in a medium that will be seen and appreciated by a lot of people, which is the medium of film and of cinema.
That's right. And the last time we spoke, and you mentioned it briefly, you were playing with the idea of creating a Gothic film about Philippine missionaries. Any new developments on that? Are you done with the script?
Yes, that's the script that I finished doing during the pandemic. And yeah, it's called Tropical Gothic. It's set in the 16th century in the Philippines. So it's, my first real period piece. It's about um, a native priestess, or what we call a babaylan, who is dispossessed. So it's set in 1570, just a few years after the Spanish colonizers arrived. And so they strip her of her property and her farmland. And as a kind of retaliation, she pretends to be possessed by the ghost of the dead fiance of her Spanish master. So it's
That is,
also a riff on Vertigo by Hitchcock.
but that's awesome. I can't wait to see that. Now, my final question.
Yes.
What do you want your new Netflix audience to get from watching the film?
Um, Lingua Franca is an invitation to see someone like Olivia, an undocumented Filipina trans woman, as beyond the easy and convenient labels by which we think of her as. She's more than a trans woman. She's more than an undocumented immigrant. She's more than the sum of her individual parts. And in the same way, I want people to think of the themes and issues that lingua franca engages with deeper than the surface, to think more critically and deeply, because that is, what's going to, I think ultimately help us as we grapple with the world that we live in today.
That's right. It's not all doom and gloom, though. I love all your performances with Trixie. I mean,
Yes,
we need some sort of levity in there.
exactly. And, just scenes between Filipino trans women are kind of groundbreaking in that way. Uh, and I'm
I
lucky
love
to be
it.
working with Ivory Aquino, who's fantastic in the film.
She's awesome, correct. So, thank you so much again. Maraming salamat. And I just want to tell you, gihigugma ko ikaw sa kalipay.
Daghang salamat, Manny. Gugma sa tika og mga viewers nimo. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.